Well, welcome to my first video here at Stephen G Studios. I thought this would make a great video because it's about practicing. I love the term practicing photographer. I consider myself a practicing photographer, but the key is practicing. And there was an idea promoted that you needed to practice something for 10,000 hours to be an expert at it. And of course, that's an oversimplification. And further research has shown that it's only part of the equation, but it's a big part of the equation. So we need to practice. And so to make it fun, I like to come up with projects. Too many times I get caught up in the day-to-day work, editing customer photos, pretty much the same thing over and over again. And you don't go out and do something different. So the projects force me to do that, force me out of that box of being a working photographer to being a practicing photographer doing it for fun. So the idea that I've had this time, at least for this project, is to take old album covers that I remember from the 80s and try to replicate them. Most albums back then used photography, and one in particular that really I think is what was the genesis of this idea was Phil Collins' No Jacket Required album cover. Very simple, it's just his face lit in an orange color with a lot of negative space, but it works. Very iconic imagery, you'd spot it anywhere, and I never forgot it. So I thought, well, this would be fun to do. So that's what this video is all about, me trying to replicate this photo. Clearly, orange light. Either they put gels on incandescent lights or they put maybe a filter on the camera lens. I'm going to use an RGB LED light to light the face or my face. And looking at the image, I couldn't tell this when I looked at the internet imagery, low resolution. One of the reasons why I ordered and I got this album, he's sweating, or at least he appears to be. When I did some research, whoever's shooting this photo decided he needed to look like he was sweating. So they got some glycerin and sprayed his face and got the fake sweat dripping down his face. So I'm going to do the same thing, see if I can simulate the sweat. I'm not really looking forward to that part of it, but hey, it's kind of fun. And if I do a shoot where I need to make someone look like they're sweating, well, now I'll have figured it out with this photo shoot. And the other thing I want to do is his eyes. You can still pick up the whites of his eyes, the blue iris. So I've got to figure out how, with just that orange light, how I can pull out some of the color in my own eye. I could always do that in post, but I'll try to do it in camera if I can. But that's the idea. So I'm going to take you on my little journey with this project. You can see what I do, and then we'll talk about the results. Setup is pretty simple. Got my LED light here, set to, I think, the right orange. Of course, that can be fixed in post easily in Photoshop or even Lightroom. So of course, I'm going to blind myself continually staring right at this. I noticed two in the image. So he's staring straight at the light, but he's looking up. So the camera's above the light, and that makes sense. So face forward, eyes up. So while I channel Phil Collins from 1985, that year I was 12, got the cassette along with many others. I guess I had a Walkman. It's been a long time. It's funny, as kids, you think the songs that you listen to have so much meaning, that the lyrics mean something. Phil Collins is funny. You do some research about his lyrics, most of it's improvisation. Most of the stories he told in the songs, he made up. They didn't mean anything. Hilarious. As kids, we thought they meant something. Now, he did have some political stuff there, But for the most part, improvisation. Sussudio. He was going to try to change that, couldn't come up with anything better, so he kept it. Doesn't mean anything. So it's just hilarious to think. And No Jacket Required. Why that album title? Well, he tried to get into a restaurant, I think with Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and they wouldn't let him in because he didn't have the right jacket. So apparently that stuck in his craw for quite some time. I think from what I read, as he went on talk shows, he complained about it, till eventually that restaurant sent him a jacket and told him he could come back anytime, jacket or not. So, No Jacket Required. So, Phil Collins was all over the place, which is kind of cool. It's probably why the album was so good. So what do you think? Do I have it? All right, so face forward, eyes up. Gotta relax the face. His face was very relaxed. So here we have the setup. So there's the orange LED light. So that lit my face, and my face was pointed directly to that. Eyes up towards the camera lens. And then my hope was the white LED light would help bring back some of the color to the whites of the eyes and the blue iris. That's the idea. We'll see if it worked. But I think this is the best I could do. Of course, having looked at the album, I noticed that there were 4 lights lighting up Phil Collins' face.
There are 4 lights!
But I don't have 4 of these RGB LED lights, so we're going with 2.
4 lights!
And then for shoots by myself, I found that this Axoon app and adapter works great. So it turns the iPhone into a viewfinder, which helps me frame myself up on the camera so I can take the shot. So here we are with the final image. I started in Lightroom and honestly did not do much editing to the photo. I boosted the contrast just a little bit and took the blacks down just so that you couldn't see anything else. And that was it. I didn't really do anything else in Lightroom. It was mostly in Photoshop where I did the work. So I spent the most time on the eyes, drawing back out the whites of the eyes and the blue of the iris. Just didn't come out like I wanted in the photo, but it's the beauty of Photoshop. And so there's that. And of course the catch light, the lights in the eyes, I'm not crazy about it, but I'm gonna leave it alone. You can see the LED light there. And especially when you're doing portraiture close-ups or headshots, you wanna think about how does the light look in the eyes. And I did some curves adjustment, but that was about it. Now the no film required, no jacket required. I basically used my iPad to trace the writing best I could. I'm not crazy about the end result, but it's good enough. Same with the Stephen G. I also made the sticker like you see on the plastic wrap on the album. So 3 songs every photographer will love. Don't Lose My Camera, Stu Studio, and One More Photo. I know, I am hilarious. But there you go. There is the album. That's the end result. All right, so there's that project, or at least part 1 of this project. I'm happy with it. It could always be better, but you know, with these kinds of things, you could work on them forever. But I think I accomplished my goal. I like the image. I don't like my face. I can't believe how gaunt I look in that image. But anyway, I'm a lot older than Phil Collins was when he did this. And the remastered version of this album, it's him, I guess, in the last decade or so. He's looking pretty old, a lot older than me, but he looks kind of gaunt too, so I guess that's just the way it goes. But anyway, I'm happy with it. The only thing I might do differently is I used f2.5. So not all of my face is in sharp focus. My ears definitely are not. In the album cover, yeah, they're in focus. So I would have probably used a higher f-stop just to try to get the whole face in focus. But honestly, you know, with the cassette, which I found, you can't even tell that. But yeah, this is the original cassette from the 80s. Great iconic imagery. You'd recognize this anywhere. But anyway, I'm happy with that. So what's my next album? Well, here it is, Peter Gabriel's So. And this is the original cassette I had in the 80s. I also got the album, which I like even better because there's no text on the album. This one probably be pretty simple. It's pretty punchy image, high contrast, crushed blacks, grainy. I like it. So the hard part will be just figuring out that position. And again, not much of an expression, at least that I can tell. So anyway, it doesn't matter. It's going to be difficult to replicate the look. But that's what I'm going to do next, just for fun. If I bored you too much on this one, I won't be doing it again. But hopefully more to learn. And I think it'll be a nice, you know, if I can get a number of albums done, it would probably look really cool with the square prints, you know, on display. Maybe something I can put in my display window here at Stephen G Studios. But anyway, thanks for coming along, and hopefully you'll come back for more videos. Thanks.